A Roman emperor had grown not so fond of his civilization. He thought his civilization was turning weak, so he decided to put them to the test. He puts a massive boulder in the middle of the road. This was one of the busiest roads in the city. It's where people were going in and out of the city. So he put it in between the road. And the carts would come by and the people would come by, and he wanted to see how they would solve the problem. Some people came to the stone and decided to turn back. Maybe some people came out and tried to put some effort in to try and move the stone. They came out, they tried pushing and pushing, and they just gave up. They walked away. Everyone gave up, and people kept trying across the day, but no one was able to solve the problem until one peasant child walks across the street to find the stone. He thinks to himself, and then he walks into the woods. The Roman emperor is watching from afar and he's confused. He just thinks it's another person who's decided to quit. He sighs and he's about to come to the conclusion that maybe his civilization is weak. A few minutes later, the child returns with a wooden plank, one that he'd crafted himself from the wood inside of the forest. He slides the wooden plank underneath the boulder, creates leverage, and moves the boulder out of the way. And behind the boulder was a box of coins, gold, treasury that only you could ever imagine. And that peasant lived the rest of his life in riches. Now, the moral of this story is perspective. The only way to solve a problem is to go through the problem. We have to look at problems as opportunities to expand our consciousness, to expand our ability to solve issues that are placed right in front of us. The idea is to not give up when problems are presented in front of us and not to sigh and look away. It's to look at them as opportunities of growth. Now, perspective is what comes into this, because when we see a problem, we think bad, we think impossible, we think difficult. Whereas we need to change our perspective and we need to think good. There's an opportunity to grow, to learn, to experience. And those are the greatest teachers out of anything that you could possibly imagine. So look at your problems as opportunities to improve your being, to improve your existence, to improve your personality, and to improve your personality traits. To walk through problems is to experience difficulty. We tend to cloud our own judgment, our own thoughts, to hide away from problems, to hide away from issues that are right in front of us, as a way, as a survival instinct to keep us safe. One thing you'll realize that most of the things that you think are right in the moment end up being the wrong thing. The gut feeling definitely does exist, but most of the time, what you think your brain wants you to do is the path of the least resistance. And most of the time, the path of the least resistance isn't the best path for you. You're not in the tribes anymore. You're not in the jungle. You don't need to survive. So the path of least resistance isn't going to help you. The path of the most resistance, the difficulty, the opposite of what your brain wants you to do, is what's going to help you. And I don't know how many times you've heard this, but I'm going to repeat it to you again. You have to go through your problems. You have to face your fears, face your problems. There's no point of running away. You can keep running away, and guess what? It's just going to grow into a bigger demon that's going to come haunt you later. Would you rather go face the dragon in this cave and potentially come across it as a child, which is easy to kill, than not want to face it and have it to come eat you a few years later? No, you would want to solve the problem that's right in front of you. Take that story and use that as a way to apply something to your own life. Any problem that you have to go through it and use an opportunity to solve the issue. Perspective, look from it from a different angle, twist the problem around. Think of it, it's kind of like a 3D model. where the problem itself is 3D model in space, and you're kind of just turning it around to find a different way in. I remember I used to play one of these games when I was younger, where if you moved the shape in the game to a certain point, you would get a clear vision of what it is that you're trying to get. So it'd be like a picture of a cat, and you'd have to move these blocks around that looked like nothing like a cat. But eventually, when you aligned it right to the right perspective, you'd see the picture of the cat. That's kind of what you want to do with your problems. You want to twist the problem around until eventually you come to the solution where you've aligned everything perfectly and you've seen it. You've like, fuck, that's the way through. That's what you have to do. Twist that problem around and then go through it. Hopefully that's been helpful, and that's given you a little bit of a different perspective and mindset towards the problems that you may have. Thank you for listening.